Hello, 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 and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use live at 5. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm excited to be here. Today is October the 15th, 2025. We're into that last quarter of the year. How you feeling? How you feeling? Let's get into our affirmation for today. And it says attract good, get in the give and take flow. I like that one. Say yes to invitations that you wouldn't normally say yes to because you have to inconvenience the person offering. Take them up on it. Give them the opportunity to give to you. Okay. Say that again. Say yes to invitations that you wouldn't normally say yes to because you have to inconvenience the person offering. Take them up on it. Give them the opportunity to give to you. Attract good. Get in the give and take flow. That actually resonated with me today because we were talking about friendship in one of my family meetings today. We were talking about friendship and what it means to be a friend. And so that resonated with me because a lot of times we give, but we don't know how to receive. And friendship is reciprocal. So I encourage you to think about those things and to work on it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our news because there's a lot to cover. And this first story just kind of breaks my heart because I've been, that nursing assistant. I worked in a nursing home where you were working by yourself. You didn't have any staff to help you, and I get it. And my heart breaks for this young lady. So it says former nursing assistant indicted in death of patient who fell out of hydraulic lift. This is coming out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And it says a former nursing assistant has been indicted by a grand jury for negligent homicide after the death of a patient, according to the Louisiana Attorney General. Authorities said the indictment of Diamond Johnson of Zachary came following an investigation by Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrow's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. Johnson worked at Jefferson Manor, a nursing home in Baton Rouge, and in June of 2024, she was using a hydraulic lift to move a female patient from a chair to a bed when the patient slipped out of the side of the lift and landed on the feet of it, according to Murrow's office. The patient became unresponsive about 40 minutes after the fall and could not be resuscitated. An autopsy revealed that the patient died from complications from blunt force injuries due to the fall, Murrow's office said. These cases are very difficult, but my job as Attorney General is to protect the citizens of this state, especially those who can't protect themselves, she wrote in a Facebook post. Johnson was booked into East Baton Rouge Parish Prison. The investigation into the incident remains ongoing. I am going to say this fully with my chest. If you're a nursing assistant and you're watching this, do not let these places put you in an unsafe position. If you can't lift a patient by yourself, if there's not a second person with you in that Holy lift, I am tired of them going after these poor individual workers and not holding the administration accountable. This is ridiculous. There's no reason why this young lady is looking at prison time when we know I can't say 100%, but we know that a lot of times it's because of understaffing. It's because you're told to make do with what you have. You do the best that you can. And I just really think that it's egregious that these attorney generals are going after the individuals and not the very circumstances and the companies that caused this to happen. How is it that you let a man, this is Louisiana, so I'm going to talk to y'all, Louisiana. How is it you let a man, Bob Dean, put hundreds of lives at risk? People died. Multiple people died because he put them in a warehouse. But yet you go after this one lonely CNA who made a mistake, who probably was told, oh, it'll be all right. Just go ahead and do it and get her up. Or you got to hurry up because we got things to do. Or they're too busy to help. I'm sorry. If you're in the healthcare field right now and you're going into these buildings and you're going into these hospitals, protect yourself. because they're not going to protect you. And right now, it is too dangerous out here for you to be listening to someone who's giving you bad advice. And so I'm saying protect yourself. That just burns me up that they're going after this poor CNA who's probably underpaid. The facility was probably understaffed. I can't say 100% it was. I don't know all the circumstances, but I've worked in these industries and I know what it's like. And for them to go after her criminally while letting the facility probably get off with paying a fine, settling the case, whatever, but they're going to send this little girl to prison. So I mean, I don't have again all the facts. She hasn't um, um, had her court date, her day in court and all that. Not everything has come out, but I just think that it's a very dangerous time to be in healthcare right now when you see things like this, and yet they're letting the very people that allow this stuff to happen because of staffing to get away with it. I have a very big problem with that. So there we go. Which brings me to my next story. This comes from, I believe, yeah, it's nurse.org. And we've got a lot from them today. Nurse.org did a lot of, I always say they do a great job of providing the news. So I want to share it with you. So if you want to know more, go sign up on their website. I love nurse.org. They do some great things over there. I appreciate them. They said a joint commission finally recognizes nurse staffing as a national performance goal for 2026. For the first time, hospitals seeking accreditation must meet specific staffing standards under Goal 12, which states the hospital is staffed to meet the needs of the patients it serves, and staff are competent to provide safe, quality care. Okay, that's great, but what does that mean in actuality? The new standard places particular emphasis on nursing leadership through requirement 120201, which specifically highlights the role of the nurse executive in directing nurse staffing. Elements of Performance 5 further mandates there must be an adequate number of licensed registered nurses, licensed practical or vocational nurses, and other staff to provide nursing care to all patients as needed. What does that mean? So it's great that they included that in there, but my question is, what does that actually mean? Since the Joint Commission has formally recognized staffing as a critical component of healthcare quality by including it in its 2026 National Performance Goals. This requirement represents a significant shift from previous approaches that often treated staffing as primarily an operational or budgetary concern. By elevating staffing to a national performance goal, the Joint Commission acknowledges what frontline nurses have long advocated, that adequate staffing is a fundamental patient safety issue requiring standardized oversight. According to the 2022 NSI National Healthcare Retention and RN Staffing Report, hospital RN turnover reached 27.1% in 2021, with 73% of hospitals reporting increases in nurse vacancy rates. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated existing staffing challenges, bringing renewed attention to the consequences of inadequate nurse-to-patient ratios. The new standard will affect all hospitals and critical access hospitals beginning in 2026 as part of the Joint Commission's comprehensive Accreditation 360 overhaul. This broader initiative aims to streamline some administrative requirements while intensifying focus on staffing and patient outcomes. So if you want to hear more about this, head on over to nurse.org. But here's a little bit of what's in here. So the focus is hospital leadership ensures sufficient and qualified staff across all departments. So here are some key points. Leaders must provide an adequate number of skill mix of staff based on services and patient needs. It applies to all service areas, including rehabilitation, emergency, outpatient, respiratory, pharmacy, and radiology. Hospitals must have qualified professionals to oversee medical records, dietetic, services, dietary, pharmacy, infection prevention, and surgical services. The next one is NPG 12.02.01, Nursing Leadership and Staffing Plan. The nurse executive, a licensed registered nurse, directs and oversees nursing operations and staffing. So that person is responsible for nursing policy, staffing levels, and skill mix, must hold or be working toward a postgraduate degree in nursing or a related field, participates in hospital-wide leadership and decision-making, ensure 24/7 RN supervision and that a nurse, RN, or LPN is always on duty. Staffing must ensure RNs are immediately available for patient care and establishes policies for outpatient departments that may not require RNs reviewed every 3 years. So let me know what you think about that. Again, there's more in this article. We just don't have the time to get into all the weeds, but I'm saying head on over to nurse.org and take a look at it. But let me know what you think. Okay, so here's another bit of interesting news before we get into some other things. This is again from nurse.org, and it says new law bans stay or pay contracts that trap nurses in debt in California. Remember, we talked about these before. And with a lot of these hospitals now coming up with these incentive programs, we've got a local hospital now that's doing it. I'm like, guys, read the fine print. Read the fine print before you get that sign-on bonus. So it says California bans stay or pay contracts under AB 692, protecting nurses from being forced to repay training or orientation costs when leaving a job early. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the bill on October 13th, 2025, marking a major win for nurse mobility, workplace rights, and patient safety advocacy. The law takes effect on January 1st, 2026, applying to new employment contracts and prohibiting most debt-linked employment agreements, including exit fees. Employers who violate AB 692 face serious consequences, including damages, attorney fees, and fines of up to $5,000 per affected worker. Nursing leaders and advocates hail the law as a victory for fairness and safety, freeing nurses, especially new and immigrant nurses, from exploitative debt traps that discourage them from leaving unsafe and unhealthy workplaces. So what it means is that nurses can now seek new opportunities, challenge unsafe working conditions, or relocate without facing crushing financial penalties from previous employers. The law covers most forms of debt-linked employment agreements, effectively barring hospitals from using exit fees or punishing nurses for workplace advocacy and whistleblowing. Exceptions do exist for certain tuition reimbursement programs tied to truly transferable credentials not needed for a nurse's current job. So this was signed. It says Michelle Gutierrez Vo, RN president of the California Nurses Association, called the new law a win for all nurses, especially for those just starting out, emphasizing its role in stopping employers from using debt to keep staff in substandard or unsafe working environments. Assembly member Ash Kaura, who authored the bill, says placing de facto exit fee on a nurse who leaves a job is unethical. With AB 692, nurses and other healthcare workers will be free to leave jobs that put them at risk, whether due to safety hazards, harassment, or toxic conditions, without the threat of financial ruin. So let me know if you're in California. Let me know what you think about this. I personally think that it's ridiculous that they would do that. I'm sorry, but if you had a place where people wanted to work, you wouldn't have to go to such extraordinary measures to keep them. Yes, I am on a roll today. I do not care. I'm just saying how I feel. Let me know how you feel about this, fellow nurses. Okay, so this is a story. Wow. Okay. I just saw this and we've been hearing about it on social media. But there's a follow-up story to this, but I just have to bring this out. Okay. So there's a lot of fake nurses out there. And we've talked about them. We've talked about it before when I keep telling you, monitor your license, nurses. But anyway, so this one comes out of Texas. And this was on a local news station. It says no answers on how alleged nurse imposter was hired and lost. I'm going to say Cruces because that's what it looks like. This is K Fox 14. So it says Margarita Gonzalez is accused of using the licensed registered nurse by the Texas Board of Nursing at multiple facilities in El Paso area. The Texas Board of Nursing Quality Bulletin says Gonzalez using the fake names to practice as a registered nurse at Mountain View Nursing Rehab and the names belonging to nurses with similar names in February of 2025. The board reportedly called wind of the situation after two facilities reported that the Social Security numbers did not match. The Texas Board of Nursing reported that Gonzalez worked directly with patients from February to May. The news station sent emails and called La Cruz's Wellness and Rehab for a response. They did not answer the call, but they transferred them to their corporate people, So it says that because they weren't sure how exactly she was doing this, we don't know if any penalties there will be for this, but the case has been sent to the Attorney General. But so here that's one person, right? But here's the kicker. It's more than one. Because this article says there were 6 fake nurses. This is from nurse.org. It says 6 fake nurses busted in Texas. Board of Nursing warns of shocking fraud details. The Texas Board of Nursing has uncovered multiple fake nurses operating in Texas and New Mexico, exposing serious credential fraud and patient safety risks. Margarita Gonzalez, that we just talked about, posed as an RN across state lines using stolen licenses in both El Paso, Texas, and La Cruz, New Mexico, before being caught and referred for prosecution. Several others, including Luz Maria Morales Aguilar, I think we reported on her before. Kay Casa, Kumara Pleasant, Courtney Virginia Curry, Brittany Mai Johnson, and of course Christina Gutierrez are accused of using fake degrees or stolen identities to work as nurses or secure employment offers. So the Texas Board of Nursing has released details on multiple cases, including individuals who allegedly practiced or attempted to practice nursing without valid registered nursing licenses in Texas and also New Mexico in one case, using stolen names and credentials. Each case has been referred for prosecution. So as we say, Margarita Gonzalez, also known as Margarita Gonzalez with 2 T's, Margarita Gonzalez with an S, and Margarita Gonzalez. Yeah, those are how she spelled it. So it's different spellings of the same name. Okay. So anyway, it says that one of the most troubling cases involved recently issued an urgent public safety alert for a woman accused of impersonating a registered nurse in both El Paso, Texas, and New Mexico. The case reveals several vulnerabilities in healthcare hiring practices and emphasizes the importance of thorough credential verification process. So attempted to secure employment and practice an RN at Mountain View Nursing and Rehab and Avar and Patriot in El Paso, Texas on February 2025, using licenses belonging to other nurses. The facilities identified discrepancies in her credentials during verification, notified the Texas Board of Nursing. Later worked as an RN at La Cruz Wellness and Rehab in La Cruz, New Mexico from February to May of 2025, providing direct patient care and using RN credentials on official records. Accused of using multiple false identities and license numbers, and she was referred to the district attorney's office. So then we have Luz Maria Morales Aguilar, also known as Luz Morales, Luz Aguilar, Luz M. Aguilar, and Luz Morales Aguilar. Worked as a registered nurse at Pediatric Home Health Agency in Houston, Texas from April 8th to the 29th, 2024 without a valid nursing license. Use the license number of a legitimate nurse with the same first and last name to obtain employment. Provided direct patient care and signed documents using RN credential. Investigation revealed the date of birth, social security number, and address provided did not match any licensed nurse in Texas. And Kakasa Kumura Pleasant, also known as Kakasa Pleasant, Kumura Pleasant, and Kakasa K Pleasant, obtained employment as a registered nurse at a dialysis center in Lubbock, Texas from June 10th to November 22nd of 2024 using a fraudulent nursing license. Submitted a fake affidavit of graduation from the University of Phoenix to the New Mexico Board of Nursing, which mistakenly issued a multi-state RN license under the Nurse License Compact. Used that multi-license to practice in Texas and provide direct patient care as an RN. Texas Board of Nursing shows that a previous RN license application had been denied in 2022 when the University of Phoenix confirmed that she never attended their nursing program. In November 2024, the New Mexico Board of Nursing revoked her license after confirming the transcripts and education records were fraudulent. Courtney Virginia Curry, also known as Courtney Curry, Courtney V. Curry, worked as a licensed vocational nurse at Ear, Nose, and Throat Clinic in Austin, Texas from March 16th to April 29th of 2020 without a valid nursing license. Provided direct patient care, administered medications, and signed records using the credentials LVN. Submitted a date of birth and social security number that did not correspond with any licensed nurse in Texas. Attempted to obtain another LVN position at Austin Allergy Clinic using false credentials. The employer confirmed she was not licensed through the Board of Nursing database. Then we have Brittany Mae Johnson, also known as Brittany Johnson, Brittany Washington, Brittany Moeen, and Brittany Parks. Attempted to gain employment and practice as an LVN at a long-term care facility in Houston, Texas in December 2024. Used the license number and name of another nurse to apply for the position. Did not provide patient care, but accepted the job offer under false pretenses. And Christina Gutierrez worked as a registered nurse at a home health agency in San Antonio, Texas from January 2023 to May 2025 using another nurse's license number and identity. Provided direct patient care to pediatric patients and documented care as an RN. Her vocational nursing license had previously been revoked in 2020 for impersonating another RN. So she had her LVN, right? And so instead of practicing under that license, she decided she was going to practice as an RN, probably make more money. And so she repeated the same violation, falsely representing herself as a registered nurse. And so there you have it. So since the incident reflects a growing national concern regarding healthcare identity fraud, according to the National Council of State Board of Nursing, cases of nurse impersonation have been increasing over the past 5 years, with cross-state violations being particularly difficult to track and prevent. This rise in fraudulent activity is attributed to a combination of factors, including the increasing demand for healthcare professionals, the complexity of multi-state licensure systems, and the lack of standardized verification practices across facilities. So, this is very important. First, credential verification should never be treated as a mere formality. Each facility should implement multi-factor verification processes that cross-reference multiple data points, including license numbers, educational records, previous employment, and government identification. Second, facilities should utilize the Nurses Verification System, a national database designed specifically to verify nurse licensure across participating states. The system provides real-time updates on license status, disciplinary actions, and practice privileges. Third, staff should be encouraged to report unusual behaviors or knowledge gaps that might indicate fraudulent credentials. Additionally, healthcare facilities should invest in ongoing training for hiring managers and human resources personnel to ensure they are well versed in the latest verification tools and techniques. So those are some of the suggestions to combat this. What do you all think about this? It's on the rise, and that's why I say keep an eye on your license. Look for discrepancies and things like that. If you get a W-2 from a place you never worked, you better turn that in. All right, we're going to take a brief break and then we're going to get right back to the news. Nurses, are you burnt out, frustrated, looking for something new? Are you looking for more? Nurses, are you ready to feel the sun? You will dream big and expand your consciousness as an entrepreneur. Your nursing license is your key to freedom. Join the Nurse Shark Academy at the nurse-shark-academy.biz today. All right, so let's get into our next story here. This is again from nurse.org. They're just hot and on it today. But it says AANA condemns 15% payment cut for CRNA services by United Healthcare. So, effective October 1st, 2025, United Healthcare, one of the nation's largest health insurers, enacted a policy cutting reimbursement rates for anesthesia services performed independently by certified registered nurse anesthetists or CRNAs by 15%. This change applies to claims billed under the, I think it's QZ modifier, which indicates services rendered without physician supervision. Providers in Arkansas, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Ohio, and Wyoming are exempt from this reduction. The American Association of Nurse Anesthesiology, the AANA, has strongly condemned the policy as discriminatory and unlawful. AANA President Jan Setner stated that the policy blatantly targets CRNAs based on their licensure alone, despite all anesthesia providers using the same techniques to administer anesthesia. The association argues the policy will harm patient access to safe, cost-effective anesthesia, especially in rural and underserved areas where CRNAs provide over 80% of anesthesia care. In response, the AANA and 9 other provider and patient advocacy groups have called on the U.S. Secretaries of Health and Human Services, Labor, and Treasury to investigate and intervene, alleging the policy violates the provider non-discrimination clause under the Affordable Care Act. They argue that instead of lowering reimbursement rates arbitrarily, the insurer should recognize the critical role CRNAs play in administering anesthesia services across the country. So if you're a nurse anesthetist, let me know what you think. Let me know what's happening. And hopefully that you're advocating for your profession in the way that you see fit and how. All right. This is a story that obviously is close to me because I know someone who's in the midst of dealing with this. It says 31,000 Kaiser Permanente nurses and other healthcare workers strike for better wages and staffing. This is from the Associated Press News. An estimated 31,000 registered nurses and other frontline Kaiser Permanente healthcare workers went on strike Tuesday to demand better wages and staffing from the California-based healthcare giant. Those on strike, including pharmacists, midwives, and rehab therapists, say wages have not kept pace with inflation and there is not enough staffing to keep up with the patient demand. And they're stating that this strike could grow to include up to 46,000 people. They're asking for a 25% wage increase over 4 years to make up for the wages they say are at least 7% behind their peers. Kaiser Permanente has countered with a 21.5% increase over 4 years. The company says that the represented employees earn on average 16% more than their peers, and it would have to charge customers more to meet the strikers' pay demand. The company said health clinics and hospitals will remain open during the strike, with some in-person appointments shifted to virtual appointments and some elective surgeries and procedures being rescheduled. The company said healthcare clinics and hospitals remain open. Again, Kaiser Permanente is one of the nation's largest not-for-profit health plans, serving 12.6 members at 600 medical offices and 40 hospitals in largely western U.S. states. It is based in Oakland, California. So we'll see. Keep an eye on that strike that is happening. All right. And a little bit of brighter news. We have another state that has entered into the nurse licensure compact, which I think is awesome. It says nurses no longer need Connecticut specific licenses. So it says nurses from outside Connecticut can now work in the state without applying for a Connecticut specific license. The new rule took effect on October the 1st. Connecticut joined 43 other states that are part of a nurse licensure compact agreement. By joining a compact license, it can function almost like a driver's license does, which is that you could go from state to state, any state that participates in the compact, and be able to practice nursing in that state. Since October 1st, we've had over 1,700 nurses already apply for a multi state compact. So obviously, there's a lot of interest and uptake already. This nurse compact joins other healthcare compacts in Connecticut for physical therapy, psychology, and medicine, which allows physicians to become licensed in other member states. I didn't know physicians could have compact licenses too. And I think with the rise of telehealth, this is a very important thing. So I really would encourage Indiana to get on board with having that nurse practitioner license so that now nurse practitioners can be included into the compact status. That would be very nice. We could do that. Since we are a compact state with our RN license, let's make an official NP license so that we can do those things. I think that would be important to help us with telehealth, because what happens if someone goes on vacation and they're in another state, unless I have a license in that state, even though they're my patient, I take care of them, I see them, I can't help them. There's a problem. So it's just how we are evolving. And healthcare, we need to keep up with that. And sometimes these laws have not kept up with the new reality of what we face. So congratulations to Connecticut. Let's see how it works out for you. Hopefully it work out well. This is from the Carolina Press, Public Press, and it says North Carolina nursing home lawsuit settlement could expand access for people with drug issues. And I found this quite interesting, this article. So we'll get into it and then we'll talk about it in a moment. So there's 2 North Carolina nursing homes have agreed to stop automatically denying admission to people with substance use disorder in a landmark settlement that could pave the way for expanded health care access at nursing home or other long-term care facilities to North Carolinians who use or have used drugs. 2 nursing homes in the Triangle Sunnybrook Rehabilitation Center in Raleigh and Trayburn Rehabilitation Center in Durham denied admittance to a North Carolina man based on his recent drug use. When Disability Rights North Carolina got wind of his predicament, they filed a joint lawsuit with the Legal Action Center against these nursing homes under the Americans with Disability Act and won. The settlement requires the adoption of an anti-discrimination policy for people who currently use drugs or receive medication-assisted therapy for addiction like methadone or Suboxone. And so here is my case for this, right? Having had this experience of someone who was in the midst of an active addiction, they were coming to the nursing home because they needed IV antibiotics and they didn't want to send them home with IV access. You have to train the nurses at how to deal with this. So this is a new reality of what we're facing. And if that person is on medication-assisted therapy and they're doing well, then we should leave them on it, right? And they wouldn't be considered dangerous most of the time. I'm going to say that to say that there has to be some training, not only for the nursing staff, but you also have to train these medical directors and what this means and putting policies in place to keep people safe. Okay. He says, I just want to be able to get the care that everyone else gets, said the subject of the lawsuit, who has chosen to remain anonymous. I want to be treated with dignity. I was sick and needed help after being in the hospital, but the nursing homes said no. It was really hard for me and it didn't feel fair. I'm very glad this case is settled and that the nursing homes are changing their rules. Now other people like me won't have to go through what I did. Disability Rights North Carolina believes it will be the first case of its kind in the country. Activists hope that nursing homes and healthcare facilities across North Carolina will adopt similar policies in the wake of the suit, expanding access to care for those struggling with substance abuse. I agree. However, as I've seen it in practice, we had people come in, the staff was not ready to take care of them. We weren't able to accommodate some of the things that they needed. So essentially, what happened? You put a detoxing person on the same unit with a dementia patient, which is a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly what happened. Um, um, so the man who suffers from a range of health issues, including diabetes, was hospitalized multiple times over a 2 year period. Each time he needed to be discharged to a skilled nursing facility. The hospital searched for an opening at any nursing home in a 50-mile radius, and Trayburn and Sunnybrook both had space. When the man disclosed his relationship with drugs, the homes revoked their offer to take him. Even though the facilities had available beds, he was denied admission to Trayburn and Sunnybrook based on his substance use disorder, resulting in long hospital stays and repeated hospitalizations. Before his third stint, he slipped into a coma. The facilities did not respond to a request to the Carolina Public Press. He says the rights of people who have substance use disorder are very poorly understood, said Holly Stiles, Assistant Legal Director at Disability Rights in North Carolina. People in active drug use or with any history of use are still entitled to health care. If you're in recovery, then you're a person with a disability and you're entitled to protections. You can't be discriminated against by public and private entities. Most people don't know that substance use disorder is considered a disability at all. People in current use have an absolute right to health care. These people need medical care just like everyone else. In addition to the anti-discrimination policy, nursing homes must pay $55,000 to train their staff on new non-discrimination requirements, implement a way to enforce the policy, and monitor all admission denials for people with substance use disorder. This case proves that it isn't just people receiving treatment for addiction that have a right to health care, but those who are actually engaged in current drug use. That population is so used to being treated as less than, said Sarah Harrington, attorney at the Disability Rights North Carolina. She hopes this case can give them hope. Substance use is a prevalent issue in the older populations that nursing facilities typically serve, according to Elise Powell, executive director of North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition. It is way too common that healthcare providers will not serve someone when they find out they have a substance use disorder or suddenly start treating them differently. It is unfortunately incredibly common to see that kind of discrimination. I'm hopeful that other facilities will use anti-discrimination policy as a model. If we keep preventing people who use drugs from receiving health care, it only gets harder and harder to help them. So again, there's this concern, and it is, but you just have to do it intelligently. So the fear for these nursing homes is that people who have or have used drugs could be destructive or dangerous. Now, in the case where I had, this is again one case, but the individual was still actively using, as opposed to someone who is in recovery. And so I think that the level of concern would be different. I mean, I had people that were, had history of alcohol use disorder and other things that were in the nursing home. They're doing very well. You just have to be careful and educated. We had one lady, she had dementia, she had a history of alcohol use. Family gave her some hand sanitizer. Not a good idea because she's got dementia. It smells like alcohol, so of course she drank it, you know. So you have to think those things through, but otherwise, don't discriminate like that. So I know the fear that nursing homes has that people who use or have used drugs could be destructive or dangerous. And again, in this case, probably not putting them in a situation where they have to deal with someone who has dementia, because that's like mixing, to me, oil in water, right? Because you got someone who has dementia, they're not aware of their behaviors, they may repeatedly scream or things like that. And you have someone who is going through withdrawal, and they're irritable, they feel horrible, so it's hard for them to calm down, so they get overstimulated as well. It could be a recipe for disaster, as I said. So, but now the man at the center of the lawsuit is thriving in a nursing home. He's well liked and an active member of the residence committee there. So, and I've had many clients who have had substance use issues who are in the nursing home are doing very well. So I think you have to take this on a case by case basis and there has to be a reason. Like, for instance, there's been times on our psychiatric unit where we could not take a patient because it was too volatile of a situation to take that particular patient with what we already had on the unit. And that's legitimate, right? We had some very volatile situations where someone who was out of control, adding that to the mix would have been detrimental to everyone. Excuse me. But that's on a case by case basis. You don't just say, oh, well, you got an issue. We can't have you. That doesn't work. All right. Here's another story, kind of following up on the stories that we've been following here. So this is from nurse.org. Travel nurses reach proposed $4.4 million settlement in wage dispute. So New West agreed to a proposed $4.4 million settlement after thousands of travel nurses alleged unpaid wages, automatic break deductions, and overtime miscalculations, according to the Fair Labor Standards Act and state labor laws. Systemic pay practice violations. The lawsuit claimed New West misclassified stipends and failed to comply with state-specific wage rules, reducing overtime pay and leaving nurses vulnerable to inconsistent compensation. And they cite that it's also an industry wake-up call where the case highlights growing accountability in the travel nursing industry and remind nurses to track hours, review pay stubs, and understand labor laws to protect their earnings. So I want to say congratulations to those nurses that won that lawsuit. So the case Hamilton et al. Versus New West Group Holdings was filed in U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington. It represents more than 2,300 travel nurses nationwide. The lead plaintiffs, Angela Hamilton and Matthew Hogan, alleged that New West compensation system amounted to a bait and switch scheme that promised high pay packages, but then unlawfully reduced the hourly rates and excluded stipends from overtime calculations. The settlement revolves around a major complaints being between roughly 2020 and 2024. Travel nurses claim that New West routinely auto-deducted 30 minutes per shift for meal breaks that were not taken, miscalculated overtime, did not follow state-specific labor laws. For example, some states have stricter rules around rest periods, minimum wage, and overtime calculations. Travel nurses who might work in multiple states in a single year were left vulnerable to inconsistencies in how their pay was handled. Misclassified housing and meal stipends as reimbursements rather than wages. According to the complaint, these stipends were based on hours worked, and by excluding them from the regular rate, New West significantly underpaid travel nurses for overtime hours. New West did not admit to any wrongdoing as part of the settlement, which still needs court approval before the funds can be distributed. And so they said, why this matter? And they said, travel nursing offers some pretty sweet perks. It can, like flexibility, adventure, often higher pay than permanent positions. But as this case shows, the compensation structure can be tricky to navigate between different state laws, varied agency policies, and the sheer chaos of nursing life. It's all too easy for wage issues to slip through the cracks. So here are some of those tips that they offer in the article. Document everything. Keep a personal log of your hours worked, especially if you're frequently staying late or skipping breaks. Double check your pay stubs. Look for errors in hours worked, overtime rates, and deductions. If something doesn't add up, ask questions. Know your state's labor laws. This is especially important for travel nurses who work in multiple states. Websites like your state labor department or the Department of Labor can be used for a resource. And then speak up. If there's a discrepancy, notify your agency in writing and keep a copy for your records. So there's more to this story, but we are running short on time because I do have another event to get to. So I want to go ahead and get to our last story here. So I decided to include this and wanted to get your feedback on this one. I thought it was kind of interesting. This is coming from Yahoo News. And this is a BuzzFeed article, but I thought this might be a good way to end the show as far as the news segment. It says nurses are begging people to stop saying these 7 incredibly rude phrases when they're being taken care of. What are they, you say? Says whether you recently went to your primary care doctor or visited the emergency room, you more than likely had an interaction with a nurse. Perhaps they were the ones responsible for taking your vitals or drawing your blood, and those are just the basics. Patient rudeness often come out of frustration, stress, and lack of knowledge, said Katie Jett, a family nurse practitioner and dean of the School of Nursing at Ponce Health Sciences University in St. Louis. More effort to inform the country about the role of nurses would help educate the public and further build a trusting relationship. So here are some of the things that rudest things that people have said to nurses. And of course, here's number one. Don't you just love it, nurses? You're just a nurse. And in fact, I had that a therapy colleague say that to me. Well, you're just a nurse. Yes, and you know, you're just a therapist. I we could do that. We could do that and say that, and it no, that's no. You need to have respect for other people. Yeah, I am a nurse, and I have a lot of science backing me up. So, yeah, you're never just a nurse. So there is no such thing as just a nurse, although it's common for patients to say it, and unfortunate for nurses to say it. The statement dismisses years of education, clinical expertise, and patient advocacy. Nurses are licensed professionals who assess, treat, and advocate for their patients every day and are an important member of the patient's care team. So here's the other one I hear, and I've heard it. It's been said to me before. You do this for the money. And like apparently you've not been on Nurse Talk to see the nurses that are thinking about taking alternate careers with a poll that maybe they could make more money that way. Everyone works for money. It's true. Everybody wants to get paid. Nurses should get paid too. That doesn't mean everyone with higher paying jobs, especially those in the medical field, aren't passionate or don't want to be there. So that kind of comment erases the years of education, unpaid clinicals, trauma exposure, and physical exhaustion. I ignore because anyone who has done a 14-hour shift in a compression socks would laugh at the idea that nursing is a get rich career, which is true, right? Here's the other one. And I've gotten this one personally as well. Why didn't you become a doctor? You're smart. Why didn't you just go to medical school? Because I'm too smart to go to medical school. I'm just playing. But obviously, I did it for lifestyle reasons. It was a choice. If you want to hear more about that, go to my other show, the Nurse Shark Academy show, and listen to episode number 1, and you'll hear my story about that. But it says applying that people who are nurses aren't as smart as doctors is a common trope that medical professionals are tired of hearing. Mm-hmm. The rudeness is thinking that RNs are not a vital part of healthcare and that we depend on doctors rather than being highly trained and educated and critical providers of healthcare. Some people are under the false impression that doctors can do anything better than a nurse, when in fact, RNs hold a solemn responsibility for patient care. And I got to tell you, there's some things you probably don't want your doctor to do because they may not have done it in years. So think about that before you say, I want the doctor to do it. Here's another one. When will the real doctor come in? Well, the doctor will eventually come to see you if you have an appointment booked with them. So saying this to a nurse is rude and condescending. The question completely disrespects the autonomy and power we nurses have in our practice. It also downplays the care that a nurse is providing as second best, when in fact many interventions are in the purview of nursing skill. This is one I haven't personally received, but I've heard. I mean, they've said it to me, but not about me. I don't want a male nurse. I believe that this is one that's still said out loud, and it shows an unease rooted in old-fashioned gender norms. It suggests male nurses are somehow less nurturing or less appropriate to bedside care, which is absurd. Here it is, and I have heard this. I could never do your job. Many people genuinely can't imagine handling the challenge of nursing, long hours, seeing patients in pain, demanding family members, etc. According to Dunn, while this can be meant as admiration, it can feel like the job is impossible or undesirable. Nurses are leaders and caregivers who don't only deal with bodily fluids, but also need to have top notch decision making skills and plenty of clinical expertise. So, there you have it. Those are some of the things that nurses wish you wouldn't say. I thought that was a great way to close this segment. So, let's get to really briefly a couple of quick announcements. This evening, starting in about 5 minutes, we do have our Alignable event. So if you're part of our local Anderson Alliance, head on over to that event. Be ready for that. We're going to have our Smart Connect, and we have about 18 people registered for this event. So we'll see who shows up and who comes. We also have on our Baxter Professional Services Health Education website, there's many classes for TB, CPR, first aid, CNA, home health aid, you name it. Go on over there and check that out. If you're interested in Nurse Shark Academy, you're a nurse, you're thinking about, hey, I want to be a business owner. I want to start my business. Where do I get started? Join us at the Nurse Shark Academy. We'll be happy to have you. And as well, listen to our other show on this channel, the Nurse Shark Academy show, where we interview nurse business owners and leaders, and we talk about leadership and business topics as well. All right, that'll be the end of our show. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Give us a like and a thumbs up for it. We'd appreciate it. Those of you that are watching on Facebook, leave us a comment and give us a like, or we'll take a heart as well. So do that for us. Let us know. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.